welcome to the Speaking Podcast. You can find all our episodes on speakingpodcast.com. We're also on BitChute and YouTube. And I also have the Awakening Podcast, the Meditation Podcast, the Learn Polish Podcast, and the Crypto Podcast. And all can be found on roycollin.com. Today, my guest, founder of MasterTalk, please welcome Brenden Kumarasamy.
Thanks for having me, Roy. It's great to be on.
So you might let the listeners know who's Brenden.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. So yeah, my name's Brenden. I'm the founder of MasterTalk. It's a YouTube channel I started a few years ago to help the world master the art of communication and public speaking. And I also have a coaching practice where I train entrepreneurs and executives to be top 1% communicators in their industry. But even if it sounds super fancy, Roy, that's not how my story started. When I was in university, I used to do these things called case competitions. Think of it like professional sports, but for nerds. So while other guys my age are playing footy or cricket or rugby or basketball, I was doing presentations competitively. And that's how I learned how to speak. And then I started coaching people who were younger than me in that program just to help them because we didn't have a communication coach. But after many years of doing that, I realized that everything that was in my head wasn't available for free on the internet, especially on YouTube. And that's what led me to start making videos. And then everything else took off from there.
And I've actually looked at a few of your videos and they're very good. And the fact that I was late to the game, but the stuff that you're covering is excellent, to be honest. And I think you've hit the nail on the head with keeping it short. You know, they're kind of 5 to 10 minute kind of things, which is perfect because if you do one for an hour, people will kind of go, not. For something like teaching them. But if they just come in and listen, and you've got something like over 20,000 subscribers, you've got, a massive amount of downloads. So, it's actually working for you.
Yeah, it took a long time. I started coaching when I was 19. So I've been doing this for 6 years. And I started the YouTube channel 3 years ago. So yeah, it's definitely been a wild journey, but yeah, super grateful for it.
So with the YouTube, because I know there's some people, I've got various channels. I got kicked off one for exposing corruption and fraud, but other ones, it's hit and miss me. I've got one that's got over 1 million, the Polish one. Other ones, they just trickle along. What have you learned? What kind of tips could you give people for growing their YouTube channel? Because obviously you've done something and I've seen you get massive views on some of your channels. So you figured it out, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely right. I wish there was a silver bullet. I wish there was a secret formula that I could share. But the truth is, YouTube requires focused dedication and a long, long time. Like the way I think about it is if you don't want to be on YouTube for 10 years, you shouldn't bother posting because it takes so long. Like my YouTube channel hit 10,000 subscribers literally 7 months ago, right? It took me 2.5 years to get to 10,000. And now it's increasing really rapidly because now the YouTube algorithm is helping me out. But it definitely wasn't the case at the beginning. So what I would say is post once a week for 10 years and you'll have a successful YouTube channel. That's the mindset you need to have with YouTube, especially with long form content. So for me, I write out my videos years in advance. I have a production team who takes care of this years in advance, so I don't have to think about it. So that I'm always posting. But the problem with most YouTube channels is they're either not focused on one topic so people know what they're getting, or there's not enough consistency. You might do it for 3 months or 4 months, but then after you kind of stop with YouTube. Whereas for me, I've been posting for 3 years and I haven't missed 1 week, not even once. And that's the magic to YouTube. I wish there was a secret formula, but you got to post once a week for a very, very long time and you got to promote the crap out of it.
No, and like so many people ask me with the podcast, like, what's the secret formula? And that's all I say. It's consistency of a few things. That's the secret. There's no magic because that's what people want. They want something easy. Oh, I press this button and there it goes. I get 2 million subscribers and I make a lot of money every week. And yeah, like what I've noticed with the Polish one, and unfortunately with my other podcasts, I'm not consistent, but with the Polish one, I put them out 2 a week regular. And I think people kind of get used to it and they're waiting for it. Do you think it's the same for YouTube?
Yeah, but the other piece that I would add that I feel you don't give yourself too much credit on, Roy, so let me give the credit for you, is you also have a very unique edge. There's not a lot of Polish podcasts out there in that specific language. So it attracts that community towards you and you have a lot of great energy too. So like, for example, if I think about Polish influencers, not a lot of names come up. It's pretty much just you. If I were to think off the top of my head, I'm sure there's others, but the point is, because there's a lot less competition for content, people will gravitate towards you. If you want a podcast in Polish, like he's the guy, Roy's the guy, right? So it's the same thing with me. Like, yes, talent, consistency is important. That's the foundation. But then the next level is, why should people watch you over a million other channels? So for me, it wasn't an accident that I grew. I'm sure some of it was, but most of it was a lot of the communication tips, to your point, that I teach in my YouTube channel, I invented. So that means if you want those tips, you have to watch my YouTube channel. You actually can't go anywhere else unless you're listening to me on a podcast or something. But if you want all of it, you need to go there. So there's a mix between how passionate you are, how consistent you are, but also what is your unique edge that you're willing to be consistent on. So I'm not surprised to see the success that you've had in the Polish community, for sure.
I know you've mentioned as well about, because like you are energetic it went with the videos, and I know even just here talking, you can see that there's, but like you're kind of even advising people, don't fake it. I know, don't, like, if that's not your style, don't be, like if you're kind of, let's call it droll or whatever, just kind of monotone. Some people are not to be going, because people can see that as well, and it's not, because there is a lot of people that like that style as well, and you'll attract that audience.
Absolutely. I made a video on this a few weeks ago about how to speak on YouTube videos, but that applies for anything on social, like a podcast and what I argue in that video, to your point, is the goal is not to speak like somebody else. The goal is to speak to the better version of who you can be. And the example I gave was, there's a lot of creators on YouTube who do way better than me. Like, yeah, sure, my follower account is cool, but I know people who are doing, 500,000, 1 million plus in subscriber count, but they're super introverted. Like Lana Blakely, Roberta Blake, the holistic psychologist. Those are just examples of creators on YouTube that have multi-6-figure subscriber counts, but aren't super, like me, excited, like super energetic. So what I feel, Roy, is more about getting started. And then as you get started, you figure out a style that works for you. So you're right, I'm naturally extroverted. So for me, it's like, I like being on, I like the energy. But for an introvert, it might start with being very quiet, but then as they get better at being on camera, they're still smiling. They're still quiet. Their vocal tones are still low, but they're smiling. Their expressions are better, but they're more of themselves. So what is the best version of you? But if you don't post content, you'll never find the best version of you, because I sucked on video too and I got started.
What I've noticed as well is, because I do a weekly show with another guy as well. And what I've noticed is, after a while, you get so comfortable that the humor comes out as well. Because I mean, if we were meeting in a bar or just going for a coffee, we'd be using the humor. But some people, they don't do that. But the more, as you say, the more you do it, then you just it is like you're becoming you, and the audience gets to see the real you. And that's how they start following you more and connecting better.
I completely agree. It's the way that we build those relationships, that energy, that connection that you clearly have. So you don't need any coaching, but that's the key, right? Is when we have that energy and that connection, that's how we build those relationships and build that audience. But the other piece that I would say as well, that I feel a lot of people talk about, Roy, is the idea of, there is something more important than follower count, which is, forget about 1,000 followers, focus on 1,000 conversations. Okay, 1,000 conversations. People forget that the people following them are human beings. You need to be willing to go to the bar with them, have dinner with them, speak to them, build relationships with them, because that's how you actually build a raving fan base. And I'm sure you've done this in Poland at some point, where you've had some get together with people who are listening to your podcast, the Polish one specifically, and you're meeting them in person. I'm sure you've done that. That's why you've had that success. And then you build that over time, especially when people meet you in person. They're more likely to say, hey, let me share this with 25 of my cousins in Poland or Polish people across the world. And that's how you actually scale a show. And people don't really get that. That distribution is the most important thing.
What I found is the amount of people that listen to it. Not everyone comments as well, because there's loads of times I'll meet people and next they'll mention, I love your podcast, I love this. And something, so don't I always tell people, don't get depressed or don't get down because you're not getting the likes. It doesn't mean people aren't listening, because I mean, you can actually check, the downloads and stuff like that. So, it's just the way something happens. Because I often said, I'm not even like, I'm trying to be conscious of that as well, because I know some people, they're judging themselves based on the amount of likes that they're getting. But there's plenty of times I'm just looking, I'm enjoying it, but I don't go out of my way to give a like. I know, so don't be kind of judging how it's done. Like,
Oh yeah, I'm completely with you on that, Roy. It's the idea of just figure out the 5 people that you know are watch you every week. And if those people like your stuff, the rest doesn't really matter. Everything else above that is a bonus. And that's the way I thought about it. I mean, think about me. I started my YouTube channel in my mother's basement. Like, people go watch my first couple of videos. There's no editing. I'm literally speaking on a phone and I'm talking like this. Hi everyone, welcome to MasterTalk. And it's like super monotone. I'm not good at it, but my tips were good. Everything else was terrible. Don't get me wrong. Everything else was terrible, but my tips were good. So people would watch the videos. Not a million people back then, probably like 10, 15 people, but they would watch every week. So I'd say, oh, looks like I'm doing something right. Looks like people actually want to watch this stuff. And then 10 became 20. And then I had dinner with those 20 people. 20 became 50, 100, 200. And now it's what it is today.
brilliant. And just because I don't think I've seen advertisements on your one. Have you actually started to monetize your YouTube channel? Did you set that up yet?
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, I started running ads probably a year and a half ago, but it took a while because I hit 1,000 subscribers pretty quickly, but it took me a long time to get the watch time I needed to monetize the because public speaking as a topic on YouTube isn't as popular as pranks, right? Or for, like music or rappers. So it took me a long time to monetize, but yes, but I don't make a lot of money from that.
I'm not sure about you, but I know the Polish one because I set it up last year near, I think, February or something like that. And at the end of the year, I just waited, and it was like about €100 that I got. And there was between 120, maybe 120, 150,000 views covered in that monetization. And I was like, whoa. And recently, another one of my channels, I got it up to the 1,000 subscribers. I got the 4,000 hours that you need. And they refused me. And I was like, but then I just said, why get upset because of this? Because you can actually, I mean, you're obviously doing workshops and different things, and you're a coach. So like, that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of promoting myself as opposed to hoping to make decent income from the views.
Absolutely. Like, the way I think about this, Roy, is you need a product or service attached to the content that you're providing if you want to make a living doing what you love. It's the only way. Like, for me, the only reason I've been able to, like, I do this full time now, but it's not because of my YouTube fame or whatever you want to call it. Not at all. Of course it helps, but for sure, there's no doubt, especially in our space with public speaking, there's not a lot of dedicated YouTube channel on that topic. So I definitely stand out, but that's not what brings the money. It's executives, entrepreneurs, coaches who pay direct access to me, who want me to coach them personally. That is how I make a living doing what I love. Because if I didn't have my clients, I wouldn't be able to do this full time. I would have to stay in my corporate job. I used to work at IBM as a consultant. So yeah, if I had to leave, I mean, and I was doing really well there financially. So the only way I could leave that job to do YouTube full time is if I had clients to coach. Absolutely. You need a product or service.
I know your Instagram, because every time I have a different guest on, because I mean, obviously I've got all the list because, I'm trying to promote the show as well to the different things. And I always look at their Instagram, I look at Twitter and all this. You've got massive engagement in your Instagram. I know nearly 5,000 followers, which I've often seen people have 100,000 with very little engagement, but you've got massive engagement, and I was going through it, looking at it, because I'm always I love marketing, and I was like, okay, what hashtags are you using? And sometimes you have no hashtags, you have just a long story, which I haven't seen before. And I'm wondering, is that the secret sauce for Instagram when we all think it's just 2 hashtags?
You know, it's funny, Roy. I've guested on hundreds of podcasts and nobody has brought that up, which is hilarious because I don't even take my Instagram that seriously. I think I mean, you saw my posting schedule. I suck on Instagram. Like, all of my focus is on YouTube and LinkedIn and guesting on shows. That's really because that's where I can talk, right? And actually give the full range. But to answer the question, the secret is actually has nothing to do with the hashtags. I don't even know how IG works, to be honest. The reason my engagement is so high is because I know most of those people that are engaging. Going back to what I was telling you earlier about the conversations, I've talked to hundreds of people. Even if I remember when I got started, even if the show has 5 downloads, if I just like the person, I'll take 45 minutes to talk to them. And the reason is this, Ryan. This is what people don't get. I want to know why you're interested in my topic. So I'll give you this crazy example. You'll find this funny. So it was 18 months ago. This guy reaches out to me. He's like, I want to have you on my show. So like, okay. So I get on this guy's show, and he's the CEO. I kid you not, the CEO of an animal sanctuary. And I was like, what's an animal sanctuary? So apparently, for those who don't know, an animal sanctuary, I didn't know this, is a nonprofit. It's like a farm where they take endangered animals like pigs and all this stuff, and they get a nonprofit to fund all of this. And he was the CEO of that. So he was watching my YouTube videos to help him raise money for his animal sanctuary. So obviously, my client base isn't watching that show. But the reason I guested on it is I wanted to hear what questions he was asking. So he was asking me so many questions related to animal sanctuaries and that I didn't get, and I was kind of figuring out. But the point that I want to drive with the story is most content creators aren't willing to spend real time with their audience. 45 minutes with Roy, 45 minutes, whether this thing has 5 million downloads or 5, it doesn't matter. It's the willingness to have those conversations. But because I've had so many of them, I have a lot of supporters, not because of some algorithm, to your point, but because I've literally talked to thousands of people one-on-one over the 3 to 5 years that I've done this. So I have thousands of people that I know as human beings who are constantly supporting what I do. And that's why my engagement rate is so high.
Yeah, what I do is, like, whether it's the YouTube or the different things, I'll always engage with them with the comments. And I know a lot of people don't do that. So when somebody writes something, I'll make a comment and thank them. And then you can see over the years, they stay because they appreciate that you've actually, thanked them for listening. I've often said, thanks for watching the show. They just say great content or whatever. I know there's all different and what I've noticed as well, say on Facebook, because one of the podcasts I have is kind of exposing corruption and fraud. Not everybody will agree with what I'm saying. The odd time you get attacked, but I was kind of prepared for that anyway. I don't engage in it. I know there's no point in arguing with somebody that's angry but you'll find your supporters will actually be defending you. They'll engage in the conversation. And sometimes you go to bed and you get up the next day and there's a thread of 20 conversations based on your followers defending you.
Absolutely. It's to your point, it's that one relationship that you spend time nurturing. And I take this even a step further. People who DM me on Instagram or LinkedIn, I always send voice notes. It blows people's minds. They go, oh my God, like this person sent me a voice note. They don't forget that for the rest of their life. And if you build that one raving fan at a time, eventually you'll have thousands. And then you'll be that 10-year overnight success, right? You'll wake up and you'll say, what happened? Like now my YouTube channel is exploding, but I didn't start that way. Like now I'm sure by the end of the year, I'll probably have 40 or 50,000 subscribers at this point, just based on the growth now. But it didn't start that way. It was just like let's say I would talk to you, I'd have 2 subscribers say, hey, Roy, how can I get this to 3? And you're like, oh, let me just press subscribe. And that's how I grew, right? So that's the key.
Yeah, I remember when I was my first podcast, I was trying to get 100 downloads. I was at 97. I was at a Toastmaster meeting, and I was like, "Come on, download!" I was basically saying, "Download my thing." I want. It was like so much success just to get to 100 downloads. And that's how you do it, one by one extra. Asking for the referral. It helps. I mean, I do that at the end of every show, and it helps because if you don't ask, you won't get it.
Yes, if you don't ask, you won't get it. Absolutely right, my friend. I do that at the end of every video too. If you know one person that's with this, send them that video and they'll be one step closer to mastering their talk. I say that in every single video.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
and I've noticed, and it works because sometimes people are doing it at the start and it's grand, but by the time they get to the end of it, they don't think of it. And it's like, once it's finished, you just say what you'd like them to do, and a lot do. It's actually, people wonder, how do you grow? It's all these little things, connecting, saying that they become 10% extra every month. And then, as you said, you're a couple of years down the line and you're going, "Ooh, this is massive," and people think you're an overnight success. You don't see the actual the work that's been put in over the years.
Absolutely.
So I know that you do like workshops, and I've been to like the landing page. So I don't know how it's organized, but I know that you do it with somebody else. So I'd like to kind of go into it, how you get people to it. Does the landing page work? And also you're partnering with somebody. So I'm wondering the advantages of actually doing that.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Happy to go into that. So two pieces there. So let's go through both. So the first one is the landing page. So yes, we host a free training every few weeks over Zoom to help people with their communication skills. And that's our give. And it also leads to clients as well, because people can interact with us. And the way that I've seen it is the success of that free training is primarily based on people attending the free training, recommending other people. Going back to what we said, right? One conversation at a time. So what we do is, let's say 50 people jump on the call. I literally message most of them, "Hey, what's up?" But not to sell them anything. I just go, "Hey, can you invite 5 other people to this call?" And they go, "Yeah, sure." And that's how we've grown this thing. I think the last free training we did, we had probably 300 people register for it. And probably 65, 70 people showed up.
That's
And
good.
that was,
That's good. Yeah, because
yeah,
I mean, sometimes people get like 5% of the numbers that register. So that's good.
yeah, yeah. And that's how we've built it over time. So our number one strategy, Roy, is build a raving fan base. People who attend it, or the people who are advocates of it. Because if you've never been to it and I ask you to promote it, you're less likely to do it. If you're outside of podcasts, obviously with the podcast it's easier, but outside of that, it's like, okay, but like, what are you doing in the street? Are you pitching people? Like, what's happening, right? But when you get to it and you're like, oh wow, this is amazing, then you're much more likely to recommend. So that's one piece. The other piece you asked me is around business partnerships. I generally do not recommend business partnerships, funny enough, because the divorce rate on business partners is much higher than the divorce rate in relationships, which a lot of people don't know. It's kind of funny. I found that out recently. I just got really lucky with my business partner. He built me up when I was nothing. Like, I started MasterTalk in 2019. I was working a corporate job. I wasn't looking to turn this into business. I was just making videos for fun. I wasn't putting any money into it. I was just on a phone and getting better every week. And then when I met Vamsi at a conference called Summit of Greatness, it's by this podcaster named Lewis Howes. He hosts this event every year. So I went there. I took a flight to Columbus, Ohio, which is in the middle of nowhere, by the way. You don't need to know where that is. And I met him at a 5 a.m. workout, and he just bet on me. He didn't charge me anything. He just said, "Hey, let me help you build your business." And he gave me a lot of great tips. He gave me my first clients. He really took care of me. And we've been amazing business partners ever since. And he doesn't coach on what I coach. He's a high performance and mindset coach. That's why we're good business partners, because we don't have competing services. So he coaches on mindset and leadership, and I coach on communication. But yeah, I'm super grateful for Vamsi, and we'll be business partners for life, I'm sure.
And like, just curious on this one as well, because I know you do kind of like a 15-minute kind of introductory call just to see how you match. Would you actually pass clients when you realize they're not a fit for you, but they'd be a fit for your partner?
That's exactly what we do. You got it. There's always something that they need help with, whether it's mindset or leadership. And the other piece is, especially now, we're both still on the calls together. So we get on the call together, and then we figure out what makes more sense to them. But eventually what happens, and that's why having a partner is great, if it's the right one. Most of the time it's not the right one. They have to be as hardworking as you, just as good. But if it does work out, it's really great, because what happens is, even if they join the mindset piece, they'll join communication in 6 months anyways, because they'll want the other part, which has happened most of the time. So it works well.
Brilliant, brilliant. And like, I know that you help people with kind of stage fright as well. And because I know some of the listeners, they're trying to improve their speaking skills, and there's others, they're just listening in because they want to try. So I know you've got a few kind of tips, and you might just talk about some of them, because I've listened to some of the videos you put up, and I'd actually recommend that they subscribe to you, because you do it very well, to be honest.
Oh, thank you, Roy. Really appreciate it, brother. But yeah, there's a couple of things to get started. So let's talk about stage fright. Here's my perspective on this. I fundamentally believe that fear of communication, or nerves or anxiety, doesn't go away. I feel bringing that to zero is a bad expectation to have. And I'll give you an example with me, right? The communication expert who coaches other people on this. If Elon Musk called me right now, Roy, and said, "Coach me tomorrow," I would shit my pants. Okay, like I wouldn't just go, "Oh yeah, like I'm totally not nervous. Let me just go ahead and fly." It's just Elon. No, I would be like, Yeah, I'm worried. I'm scared. It doesn't matter how great you are at communication or how skilled you are. There's always somebody, if Obama calls you and says, hey, I need your help coach, there's always some level where you're worried, you're anxious, you're scared. So for me, the goal is not to remove the fear. I feel that's the wrong expectation to have. But rather, rather saying, how do I outweigh the fear? Think of it like a boxing match. One side of the ring is the fear of communication, the anxiety, the stress. But the other side is the message. Why are you sharing this? Why is it important? Why does this need to be shared? So the goal is not to remove the fear. The goal is to make sure that when your message and your fear meet in the middle of the boxing ring and the match starts, that your message gets the knockout punch. Your fear doesn't need to go away. Your message just needs to be a bit more important than the fear to make this work. Think about me. I started my YouTube channel when I was 22 years old. I was coaching CEOs when I was 22, which sounds cool, but I was coaching people who were lived longer in the company, worked longer in the company than I was alive. Who was I to do that? I had a lot of fear, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. So why did I press record? I didn't press record for the executive who could afford me. I pressed record for the 15-year-old girl who couldn't. That 15-year-old girl, whether they live in Poland or the United States or Canada, doesn't matter. They can't afford a speech coach. And I was the only person who was young enough that they could relate to. So it's either I post the videos or nobody does. That's why I pressed record.
Beautiful. I love that. And that's why I've done a lot of the stuff that I'm doing as well, is because I'm conscious not everybody can actually afford it. Same with the, the podcast and also the Polish thing as well, because some people need to know the language and they can't afford to get lessons. And yeah, you, even if you're helping one person, I always say you would still do it. You'd send it out there when you know that, even though it grows and there's a lot more. But I always said that if it's one person is benefiting from it, would I do it? I said I would.
Absolutely. Same here. We have the same philosophy, right? It's all about saying, like, for me, my legacy is I think the next Elon Musk is a 7-year-old girl who can't afford me and like a communication coach. That's why for me, I want to be the Khan Academy of public speaking, where it doesn't matter if you don't have money. You should be able to go on MasterTalk. As you know, like all my information's free. I don't hide anything. Like go there and watch it, learn, and still master the tools. Coaching is mostly for people who want to save time, right? Get there really fast. But that's the mantra, man. So definitely on the same page.
And you mentioned about the fear is always there. I totally agree with you. I mean, like going on stage, definitely, but with like I do live calls usually weekly, and I know that we had David Icke a few times, and I don't know why. I mean, I've read a few of his books and everything, just got the EBGBs for that. But I think, and you see a lot of people doing, I think it's because you care so much that's why you've got it. And I know that there's others, they get to a level and they don't have that anymore. And you can actually know it and feel it. And I think they lose something. It's like a cockiness, and they don't connect with their audience when they're doing that. There's like they made a jump and they think they're above everyone else. But you can actually feel it and you can see it when you've done, when you've gone through the roads of public speaking.
Oh, absolutely, Roy. That was probably the best thing you said today. You're absolutely right.
The rest was no.
No. Everything else was great too, but that was like exceptional. You're right. You have to really care. Like for me, YouTube. Same thing with you, but I'm speaking for both of us. For us, it wasn't about being famous, like doing all this stuff. No, it's just I was genuinely upset, Roy, that a lot of the stuff I was sharing wasn't available for free. I was shocked. There are so many speech coaches who are older than me, who had a lot more time to be on YouTube. I couldn't because I was 15, or sorry, I was 18 7 years ago. I didn't have the expertise. But there's people who are much older than me who could have done this. And I started watching their YouTube videos and I was like, this is horrendous. Like, what do you mean? Bring more energy, be yourself. None of this makes any sense. There needs to be practicality. That's why I started posting videos. It wasn't to make money. I was doing well financially already. I was making really good money at IBM. But when I realized that this didn't exist, it pushed me to do it. And then I found a way to monetize it later. But you're right, the core needs to be true. And that's something I told myself at the beginning of this journey too. It doesn't matter if I make $1 million a year or 100 or 10,000. I always am making videos for that 7-year-old girl. That's always the focus. Whenever I show up on a podcast, you're right. It's never about saying, oh, I've guested on 600. Who cares? No, instead of going, no, it's people don't know me. I need to make sure that there's one 7-year-old girl who's listening to this, who's going to watch me and go, I can relate to this person. Right? And that always drives me. So yeah, I'm definitely with you on that too.
And I know with the meditation, because I went through a journey where doing very well in real estate and everything, and then kind of through corruption lost it all. And meditation was helping me, and I was listening to some meditation chat, and then they changed it to a paid one, and that inspired me then to do the meditation podcast, to make sure there's meditation from all different types, and it will always be free, because you just don't know the journey people are going on as well, what they need, and they will find you. The thing lands on people's laps when they're in need of something.
100% correct. I love that we have so much of the same values and philosophies, and that's what it takes. So going back to your first question, Brenden, how do you become a YouTuber? You already know the answer to that question. How to become a great content creator. But for the audience, it's how much do you care? Do you care so much that it hurts? Like, that's really the ethos. And everyone's got their sport, right? For some people, it's being really good at basketball. They put in the work, they wake up every morning at 5 a.m., they get it done, they put in the reps, and they become world-class basketball players. But in this sport, in content creation, your outcome, the quality of your distribution is solely dependent on how much you care about your audience. The most generous person wins in this industry. So if you're someone who's holding back, sure, you might win short term, right? We call them direct response marketers. Yeah, sure, you might win short term. You'll never win the long game. But if you really care about people, this relationship compounds over time. So let's say me and you, we just met. We're both go-givers. Sure, maybe like no products, no sales, but after 10 years of us building a relationship together, a lot of things will happen from that. And people who are playing that short game won't realize that, and they'll always lose in the long run. So you have to really care. Absolutely.
Definitely. And like, I know that you've got some prestigious clients like Salesforce, Amazon, Deloitte. I wrote down the other one, like IBM. Like, some people aspire to get that. You were very young doing that. I mean, you even mentioned that at the fair there, but like landing them, because some people aspire to try to, let's call it, landing the big boys. I'm not sure if it's the best way for everybody, because sometimes, getting into a corporation, but you might just, how you can kind of get the fishing rod out and put in a few of these, because it's good on the CV as well. I mean, I even see it on the email. It's kind of showing you're at a caliber, because these companies, they don't, they'll do their research, and you keep coming back when they're happy. They see the results. They see the people that you're coaching. They're going, wow, this guy was shaking and now he's a confident speaker.
And I'll be honest, Roy, of course, in our industry, right, in speaking, it's easy to do because it's easy to show the result if you're good. But what I would say is it's seasons. So don't compare my chapter 22 to somebody else, to your chapter 1, not you, but the person who's listening, right? So it's the same thing. So when I started, and this is my advice always, because I had a lot of imposter syndrome when I got started, not so much anymore, but when I started coaching people who are double, triple my age sometimes. So what I would say is start with the person you're comfortable serving. So think about if you're a parent. Is it easy for you to give kids advice? Yeah. Or you'd be like, yeah, they don't listen to me, but yeah, I'm going to give them some advice. So start with the people that you're comfortable serving and get them results, especially in coaching. Like, especially in that niche specifically, I always recommend starting for free. Like, if you can't get results for people, why bother charging? You're just stressing yourself up, because now you feel out of integrity. You're like, oh my God, if I'm turning this person and I haven't gotten a result yet, it's just bad woo woo, right? So for me, it's more about saying, okay, I just started coaching 7-year-olds. Literally, that's how I started. I was coaching 9-year-olds to pro bono, like just helping them. I didn't know what I was doing back then. Right? This is probably 5-6 years ago. I was just coaching them. And then I started coaching people my age. But once again, had no idea what I was doing. I was making a bunch of mistakes. And then I got good because I coached 50 people. It wasn't like some magic potion I drank and I became this great speaking coach. No, I just coached 50 people. I sucked with 47 of them. And then at number 48, they were like, oh, this is actually helpful, Brenden. This is very good. And that's how I got better. And then when I got really comfortable, I started coaching people my age again. So at this point, I'm still not coaching people in their 30s or 40s, 50s, still my age, but those people were CEOs because a lot of my friends were in the startup space. I was in the technology space a lot. So they started their own companies and they were saying, hey, Brenden, I have a pitch for an investor for 50,000 and I can't afford a coach. Can you just help me? I just said, sure. So then I started learning C-suite level communication. And then I was like, well, if I can coach a CEO, I could probably coach someone in their 30s who's a software developer. And then so I went and you get it. So it keeps going, it keeps going, it keeps going until now. Now I just coach, primarily managers at Amazon and things like that. But I think the key is notice where I started. So you need to start where you are. The biggest mistake most people make, Roy, whether it's with anything, starting a podcast, starting a business, is they don't put themselves in movement. They're not in movement. Okay, if I'm not making any money, let me just coach somebody for free. Okay, if I don't know how to speak, let me just start a podcast. If I don't know how to do this, let me just try something. But most people aren't willing to try something. And that's where the friction point is.
I'm glad you said that about the coaching the people kind of at the start free, because like I've kind of realized that I need to start monetizing the podcast. I mean, I'm promoting some of my real estate and stuff like that, but my passion is in the podcasting. So I've decided, because I've got 5 podcasts, 4 of them are in the top 0.5%, that I'll be a podcast coach. I haven't done it, but what I have done over the years is I've had loads, and it was kind of part of the thing as well, is so many people are coming to me to help them, which is great, but it's a lot of time and effort. And I set up kind of modules and taken them through, and their podcasts have been successful. So I've actually done that to, help people to get through. So next question is relating to me, but I know it might be others, because there's people I want to be coaching, because I'm looking at it now and I'm looking, am I going to do the kind of full all in to take a person from, they decide they want to be the podcaster, to the whole through journey, editing, marketing, everything, rather than the hourly thing? Because I'm not sure, is the hourly thing something that people will appreciate? And I'm just curious, because you're a coach, your thoughts on that one.
Absolutely, we're happy to, and we can have an offline conversation as well if you want to talk deeper, whatever I could do to serve you. But the key is, in a nutshell, I would never charge by the hour. I charge by the result. So I charge X number of dollars, let's say a few thousand, for this result, and I guarantee the result. So that way people don't feel like, okay, why are you giving me 5 hours of my time instead of 10, right? Because then it's harder to go through the value. So what I always think about my framework is, what are the 3 easiest results that you can deliver? I call them high impact results, what they're easy for you, but impactful for the other person. So I'll give you a super easy example to give you something specific. For my technology executive clients, if I just teach them presentation skills, that's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to them over time. And I'll tell you why. Because when they're making, I don't know, 130, 150,000 as a technical consultant, the next pay raise is 200,000 generally, where they go into leadership skills. So if they pay $3,000, $5,000 for coaching, not only do they get the salary increase, but that salary increase stays for the rest of their life. So we just added, I don't know, maybe like $1 million or $2 million to their bottom line in their salary. So, but that's also easy for me to deliver. So this is what I want you to pay attention to, Ron. So it's impactful for them, but it's easy for me. That's the sweet spot. Versus, I'll give you an example. I used to do this a lot, where in the beginning, I would coach a lot of people in their TED Talks. That's a pain, because you have to look through all 18 minutes. Everything has to be perfect, and they don't have a budget. So it's just like, they don't have a lot of money. It's tough. It's not easy. And I wasn't super excited about it. I still do it for some of my clients, the people I really love, but it's mostly invitation only now for that type, like the TED Talk stuff. But notice what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find a balance between what's easy for me and what's impactful for you. So for example, in podcast coaching, if I was you, I would focus less on the editing side. Maybe you can hire an agency and take a finder's fee. You can take like 10% and say, okay, I have this agency who's really good. I'll refer you to them. And then the agency will pay you 10% of whatever they sell to them that you trust, obviously, not like some random agency. And then you coach them on the stuff that you're excited about. So for example, how to be a really good podcast host. Like, how do you ask really good questions? How do you show up with energy? And you could write a list of all of the things. Okay, these are the 10 things. And then out of those 10 things, you figure out what are the 3 things that you're excited about. that really gets you excited. So for me in communication, it's how do you answer questions in a boardroom? How do you give feedback? It's presentation skills. It's relationship building. That's what lights me on fire. So I coach on those things and I don't coach on anything else. So that's what I would do. I would narrow the scope on the stuff that's easy for you, impactful for them, very impactful, and then charge them based on that result. That's it. And I wouldn't do anything else.
Excellent, perfect. And like I know as well that because I've talked to people that have got coaches, and as you mentioned, they can get a big jump in their salary. But I've heard as well that sometimes people, when they become the president or the CEO, it's a different form because they're not used to then kind of that they're talking for the company, and then they can. And so when you build a relationship with people as they're going up, it's a nice way that you can keep working with somebody as well.
100%, exactly. And it's also about who are you excited about. Like you could one other exercise you could do is when you coach 10 people, you can sit down with yourself and go rank them. Who is my favorite person? And then you'll notice there's a trend. Maybe you like working with Polish people, maybe you like working with technologists. You'll find a trend, and then when you find it, you just double down on those people, and that's how your business scales.
Right. Listen, Brenden, thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I know I didn't even cover half our things, but I know we're approaching time. I definitely think we should get you back because there's a lot of stuff that I didn't hear that will be good. So maybe in a month or two, we'll get you back and we kind of talk more about the speaking with the stuff that you're sharing on your shows, because I know a lot of it is very relevant. So how can people get in contact with you?
Absolutely, Roy. This episode is such a joy. Thanks for having me on. I'm always happy to come back. You're great. And there's two ways of keeping in touch. So the first one, to your point, right, the YouTube channel, go to MasterTalk in one word. You can just type MasterTalk in the search engine. You'll find hundreds of free videos on how to speak. And if you're interested in coaching, come to one of our free live interactive trainings over Zoom. It's not a webinar. You're on a Zoom call. I'm coaching you for free on that call for an hour and a half to 2 hours. And if you want to register for that, it's rockstarcommunicator.com.
Okay, I'll make sure I put the links in. I'll also, if you want, I'll put the Instagram and your LinkedIn as well, because what I found is that everybody connects in a different way, and they tend to kind of guide to the one that they're into the biggest. So that's what I put all the links in, both the audio and the video. So listen, Brenden, thank you very much. It was a thoroughly enjoyable conversation.
Thanks, bro.
So that's all for the Speaking Podcast. You can find all our episodes on speakingpodcast.com. As mentioned, we're on BitChute and YouTube. Be sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, share with your friends. Until next week, take care.